The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Wednesday, the 3rd of February, 2016, are currently trading with gold at $1,138.10 an ounce, silver $14.63 an ounce, Texas crude $29.88 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 370 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1966, the Luna 9 Russian spacecraft became the first unmanned probe to achieve a soft landing on the moon, or any other planetary body for that matter. Also known as the YE-6, number 13, it was the first probe to transmit photographic data to Earth from the lunar surface. In recent news, Sandra Merritt, one of the two indicted with tampering with governmental documents in order to create fake driver's license in a plot with anti-abortion activists to obtain the undercover video footage exposing Planned Parenthood for selling human body parts, turned herself into Texas authorities today. She posted her $2,000 bond and was later released. However, the news conference that she was scheduled to hold afterwards was canceled. David Daleiden, the main activist behind the videos, plans to turn himself over to authorities tomorrow, his attorneys have stated. He does ironically face an additional misdemeanor charge related to the purchase of human tissue. Ironic because, if you recall, a grand jury in Houston, Texas, that had been tasked with looking into the wrongdoing by Planned Parenthood announced that it was indicting Daleiden and Merritt instead. The results for the Iowa caucus are as follows. For the Republican Party, Ted Cruz, 8 delegates, or 27.7%. Donald Trump, 7 delegates, or 24.3%. Mark Rubio, 7 delegates, 23.1%. Ben Carson, 3 delegates, or 9.3%. Rand Paul, 1 delegate, 8,481 votes, 4.1%. Officially, Rand Paul did drop out this morning, stating the lack of funds and support as his main cause. Jeb Bush, 1 delegate at 2.8%. Carly Fiorina, 1 delegate, 1.9%. And John Kasich, 1 delegate at 1.9%. For the Democrats, it was actually decided by a coin toss, which gave Hillary 6 wins out of 6 tosses. Hillary Clinton got 23 delegates and Bernie Sanders 21 delegates. This has been your lowdown for February 3rd, 2016.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Agenda 21 Talk. I'm Don. Shannon might be on next week or the week after, but he's going to try to be on. Couldn't make it tonight again. Like I said, he may not be on very much for the next few months while he's doing some other stuff. It is February the 9th, 2016. February the 9th. We weren't on last week. Had another illness. Boy, I tell you, Satan's been trying to keep us off the air lately, it seems like. But we're on this February the 9th, Tuesday. It's 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what it is on the West Coast. What is that? 6 Pacific time. Anyway, we're live on this February the 9th. We're streaming on LogosRadioNetwork.com. I just went to that website, Logos, L-O-G-O-S, LogosRadioNetwork.com. And there's a chip-in button. If you like the shows that are on this network, like our show maybe, or other shows, chip in. And they're giving away another gun. When I first looked at the picture of the gun, it looked like somebody smashed the nose of it up, but it was the sight that's on the front side on this pistol. Anyway, they're giving away a free gun that's been donated. So chip in, support your local Truth Radio. I mean, there's lots of people, lots of shows and lots of things on the internet to listen to. YouTube has about 5 billion of them, but there's all kinds of stuff to listen to. But and some of it's good stuff. Some of it's well-intentioned but misinformed, and some of it is just false flag stuff that someone wants to put out to lead people astray. But this network seems to be, in my opinion, my humble opinion, and not just because I'm on it, this network seems to have the truth, really good stuff, good truth you don't hear other places. And it's got the shows on from vaccines to crypto to legal stuff. So donate and support this network, because it puts out some really good stuff. And anyway, so that's enough about that, I guess. But Calling number 512-646-1984. And said this other times, so if you've heard it before, you're about to hear it again. Let me know what you want to cover in this show. You know, we've been on for a long time. Unbelievable to me. We've been on as long as we have. You go to the archives and see. We've gone through a lot on the show. And there's some good stuff on the show. Shannon and I have talked really good about property tax and code enforcement, traffic, and all kinds of stuff. So you can go back in the archives and look at the blurbs and listen to good stuff. But let me know what you want to do. I've sort of taken the show, at least in the second half of the show, and maybe more now, to more current events about what's going on now. It's kind of ridiculous to tell you about legal stuff, about the way things are, but not tell you about the times we're in and danger that's coming. You know, the Bible talks about watchers on the wall, which are supposed to warn people about impending danger. I like to think I'm one of those. And so it would be kind of silly to get you all trained up on legal stuff and then not inform you of, well, it really doesn't matter anyway because we're about to go into martial law and it doesn't, and it's really more about Jesus versus Satan and this controversy, the Bible says, between the two. And we're caught in the middle and Jesus is about to return and you'd be caught unaware. So I've been trying to bring more and more and more of that into the show and more about current events that I believe indicate we're here near the end times. And a lot of people who are not even Christian know we're near the end times. Anyway, that's along those lines. So we'll talk about some stuff tonight, talk about some legal stuff, and talk about current events and then the Bible, stuff that's in the Bible relating to current events. If I was a preacher, every sermon would be on the times we're in to prepare you. They wouldn't be gushy, sweet sermons, pleasant thought things that you hear. It'd be about the times we're in. I might be considered a one-trick pony. That's all I know. That's all I do. But it's the most important thing right now, if you ask me. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about them. So, and as far as I know, we're one of the few shows that talk about actual biblical stuff like that from the Bible. We talk about legal stuff. I don't know how to put it generally. Think about this show beforehand and what to say and what we're doing. I still sometimes don't have the words. You know, we tell people, I run across people that have problems. They come to me or somebody I know, we talk about it. I can give them stuff I know would work from personal firsthand knowledge. And it's just so out from their ordinary frame of reference that they ignore it or they don't do it or they go on. They think that this is somebody else on the internet who they have no idea if that person is giving them good information or not. They don't know if he's done it. They don't know if he's just talking and hasn't ever been in a courtroom in his life. They don't know if he's ever defeated any traffic ticket or anything like that. But he says all this stuff, so they go after that guy rather than me telling him simple stuff to do. And it's kind of frustrating, but I know why people get burned out now about helping people because you give them something you know will work and they just throw it in the trash and leave it alone, ignore it. But anyway, I run across people all the time that I tell them one of the keys, if you're listening to this show, is Agenda 21, about Agenda 21 stuff, legal stuff, our agenda for the 21st century, other people's agenda for the 21st century. But everybody wants magic paperwork. I'm trying to say is people have to study. I tell people stuff, I show them the truth, and nobody wants to learn anything. It's like those the people in Montana, was it, that seized that federal property and then it ended up one of them getting killed, and then that's not going to end well. The frustrating thing is if they had done their homework, if they had, instead of grabbing a gun and running out on the property and chanting and protesting and doing all that stuff, pick up a book, pick up a law book and study. Not that I'm any great person, but the path I took was to look at a lot of people. And I listened to some of these people on the internet and some books. And back in the 90s, before the internet was popular, I was trying to remember this guy in Florida. I got his stuff, and he was talking about administrative code as the fourth branch of government. And I got his stuff, and again, I was looking for magic paperwork, and I'd file stuff, and it didn't work. Point is, I have looked at some stuff that doesn't work, that is partially right, but not completely. And just as you would, just as those people in Montana would. But you you have to have some frame of reference. And so you look at 2 or 3 people, what they say, listen to what they do, have they actually had success that you can verify. Anybody can say anything. So anyway, you got to study. And yes, you're going to go down some rabbit trails that end up nowhere. You're going to start looking at somebody and thinking what he says is true or she says is true and right. And then you realize they're wrong. They had a good idea, but they took it too far. They didn't go far enough, or they only have part of the truth and you want the whole truth, and you find somebody else that can have it. So you're going to bounce around. You're going to see lots of different people. Ride class is a good place to start. I don't know. This show, Rule of Law. Anyway, point is you're going to have to study. And you're going to go down some trails that don't lead anywhere, and you're going to misfire a few times before you get it right. But if those guys had done their homework for the past several years and study and read instead of drinking beer and going to the militia meetings, that actually studied the law, they'd have been much better off. They would know that the government doesn't have authority outside Washington, D.C. They'd know that the people who were convicted would know that they used the name in all capital letters. They didn't use their true name. I don't know what they convicted. They probably had attorneys. They wouldn't have gotten attorneys. Doesn't mean they wouldn't have ended up in jail, but it means they would have had a chance, a much better chance, if they had done their homework, fought the good fight, and used their brain. What was that movie where Mel Gibson in Ireland? Trying to think not Ireland, then Scotland, that Scottish guy. I can't think of the movie, but anyway, he says the British had killed some of the Scottish noblemen and hung them up in a room, and the young Mel Gibson character wants to get a sword and go use everything. This guy's uncle, I think they killed his father. This guy's uncle said, learn to use your brain before you use the sword. And so if you learn to do that, learn to use your brain, you'll get much further. And you can fight in their own courtroom, even though the courtrooms may be corrupt. You can at least raise some stuff that they won't want to bring up in court. So anyway, that's what I think about. I haven't mentioned it before. It's been several weeks since they had the big deal and the guy was killed. So up in Montana, but that's just what I think. I hadn't mentioned it before. But anyway, so if you want that type of stuff to cover, we've covered it before. Just listening to this show or listening to the Rule of Law Radio won't be enough. You're going to have to study. Eddie Craig's got some great stuff. If you go to logosradionetwork.com, you can get that Eddie Craig traffic seminar. Even if you don't want to do traffic, he has excellent things. And we're coming up on a break in a minute, and I'll cover just a couple of basic things about what he says. The same thing we say just in different ways. And anyway, the point is, there's no magic paper. You're going to have to study it for yourself. You got to turn off the TV, read some stuff. We can help you. I've got some personal firsthand knowledge. That's why I say that a lot. It's a legal term too. Some personal firsthand knowledge of what works, what doesn't work, what's true and correct. But still, you're going to have to go out and study. You're going to have to know it. You're going to have to know it backwards and forwards, so that when you go, if you have to go in before a court or a judge or even just some investigator or policeman or something, you'll exude confidence because you know what you're talking about. You know it's true. And people can pick up on that. And so we'll talk about that after the break. We've got just about 30 seconds before you hear the music. In Chicago, it was in the news just last week that the police have been sabotaging their body cameras and the cameras on the car. They'll remove the power supply or the battery pack or do something to sabotage the cameras. They don't want to be recorded in Chicago. And, of course, as you know, they've been caught killing innocent people and just being a police state there in Chicago. So that was in the news. Got the well in California that's still going, spewing methane into the atmosphere. All right, coming up on a break. Call-in number 512-646-1984. We'd love to hear from you. I'm by myself tonight. Want to hear what you're talking about? We're live. It's February the 9th, 2016. 512-646-1984.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 21 Talk. Call-in number. Want to hear from you tonight. Let me know in what direction you'd like the show to go or any guests you'd like to have or anything like that. 512-646-1984. All right, what I was saying before, have people, if you listen to this show, if you listen to Rule of Law Radio or anything, so many people we've run into who say they're going to do something, say they'll, whatever issue it is, but here in Alabama, we're the homosexual marriage thing. People were preachers, for instance. This is just an example. Are all up in arms, and people other than me would give talks and seminars and whatnot, telling people what the law is and the truth about the jurisdiction and what laws apply and everything like that. And all these preachers say, yeah, we'll do that. We'll help you. We'll sign this. We'll meet there. And then they don't do it. And if you're listening to the show, if you're listening to Rule of Law for entertainment, that's nice. Thanks for listening. But it's completely valueless for entertainment. Soul Network would be valueless just for entertainment purposes. You might as well just turn on TV and watch reruns of I Love Lucy. The information that's provided on this network and our show and others is for you to use, but you need to get off the couch, get off your chair and go out and do stuff. Use it, learn it, exercise it. It's like your arm. If you never use it, it will wither away. So use it. Use everything on the show, on these shows, on this network, and stuff that you learn. Convince yourself. Read the law. Rule of law, Eddie Craig talks about the same thing we talk about in a different form and different manners. It's all about, if you want to learn the law or learn the deceit that's going on now, you'll have to read. You'll have to get the law books. Some of it's online. It's nice to get it online, but it's also nice to go to a law library and look at it. But, we say the same thing. Get the law books, read what they're supposed to do, read what the law is supposed to cover, look at the definitions of the words, find out who it applies to. It usually applies to persons, and the definition of persons is corporations, trusts, partnerships, things that humans have created, the legislature that have created corporations and the like. It will say in the definitions of these laws, in Alabama, it says a person is a natural person. Well, that's defining, as Eddie Craig said on our show a couple of years ago, hey, that defines, you can't define the word person with the word person. That's like saying a widget is a blue widget. Do you know what a widget is? Is it an aircraft carrier, an elephant, or a virus? You don't know. You just know the color of it. So, natural person, given in the context of all these man-made artificial things, entities, must mean it's just another noun, a pronoun for an artificial man-made entity. Corporations, trusts, partnerships, governmental entities. In Texas, it says it's an individual. Person is an individual, trust, partnership, co-partnership. So individual in that case means one of the group of things, and the group of things is artificial man-made entities. It's one thing to hear me say it, it's another to understand it to the point where you can write paperwork that dismisses or stops any traffic or any other case because they don't have your true and correct name, and they claim you're a person. They claim you're one of those that are under the law. And in my case, all they could come back with, the Attorney General for the state of Alabama, all they could come with, the best minds, the legal minds that money can buy. I don't know about that, but they're working for the Attorney General's office in Alabama. All I could say is, well, Mr. Terry just thinks the laws don't apply to him. Objection, assuming fact, not an evidence. I'm just telling you what the definition is, and I'm not a person. You do the math. I'm just telling you that. So that's all they could do. They can't say you're a person. They haven't yet. They might in the future, but they haven't been able to say that. So it's all the same thing. Read the laws themselves, look at the definitions, and Eddie Craig has done a whole lot of work for you. It's got a ton of stuff from Texas, and you apply it to your state, but you still have to do a lot of reading. And like people in Montana and other people who are complaining haven't read anything. They don't know anything. They're acting out of ignorance. It's so frustrating. I see them do these things, and I know they're doomed to failure. And if I was there to help them, they might still fail. There's no guarantee. I'm not a great person or orator or teacher or anything. They would fail just as likely to fail if I was there, but they would have a better chance if they would learn and do it themselves and learn what they're doing. So it's just frustrating. So if you're listening to this network, get up and do stuff. Take action. And the time for guns and bullets is over, if you ask me. We don't need violence. There's going to be enough of that when Jesus returns. The earth is going to be burned up with the brightness of his coming. It will be, if you haven't confess your sins and let him have your sin. He became sin so that you could appear spotless before the judgment. But if you haven't done that, then you're going to have to answer for your sins yourself. And unrepented sin cannot stand in front of Jesus when he returns, so you're going to be burned up. And it says that. We can cover that maybe the next hour, maybe later. Some research I've done, and I've got these documents. Our email is agenda21talk@yahoo.com, and I'll send you some documents that I've written. They're rough stuff, but a bunch of Bible verses, really. Collection of them. You'd be amazed what the Bible actually says on things. So I'll send you anything I've got, any code enforcement document that you need that we talked about with Shannon, or anything like that. I've got this prophecy chart, revelation chart that I made based on what God told me. And if God doesn't tell you something, then maybe you're not listening. Maybe you never asked. I asked. He answered my prayer. You need to ask. People say, you think you talk to God? Well, don't you? If you don't, what's wrong? Why don't you? Well, how come you never tried to? Why come you never asked? So anyway, okay. What's happened in the past couple of weeks? I'm going to read some news stories. Let's see. Got that well in California. Bible said he would destroy those that destroy the earth. Well in California has been spewing out stuff since October of 2015, 4 or 5 months ago, and it is spewing out less stuff. They haven't been able to stop it, spewing out methane, and now they've detected radioactive stuff from the earth. Radon and stuff is spewing out. People around it are getting sick. They've had to evacuate 11,000 people, and they haven't done anything to stop it, but it has just run a little. It's spewing less stuff because it's running out of stuff to spew, but it's still about half, a little more than half. Maybe I forgot it was down a third, but still spewing out stuff. Everybody's talking about methane being more of a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Well, maybe on Venus, but not on this planet. But still, it's spewing out enough methane. Here's Jerry Brown, the governor of California, is trying to reduce carbon emissions and methane emissions, and that whole well has spewed out more than the entire state will do in 5 years, I think. And it's done it in just a few months. And it's still going, and they have no way to cap it. They say at least until the end of March. Japan... Is it Japan? China has gone to negative interest rates. It's Japan. Japan has gone to negative interest rates, meaning they're charging you to hold money into their bank. Why are they doing that? Because banks are in a crisis. You wonder, how can banks be in a crisis? They just make money. We don't even have money anymore. It's just numbers in a computer. You don't even have to have a printing press anymore. All they have to do is type in numbers in a computer, and they've got $50 gazillion. But the banks are acting like they're in trouble, and I don't know what's going on, but it is kind of interesting. There is a calamity coming. Don't know what it is. Probably a combination of things, but it could be economic. It could be a meteor hit the earth. It could be this weird weather that we're having all over the earth. It could be a number of things. It could be all of them combined. But the banks are having trouble, so they're charging you to have money. I thought that was interesting. Coming up on a break. This is Agenda 21 Talk. After the break, I'll start reading some stories and talk about the 5-year-old Happy Meal that looks exactly like it did 5 years ago. Person in Alaska did that. 512-646-1984. It is February the 9th, 2016.
Hey, wipe that grin off your face. States across the U.S. are officially forbidding people from smiling when they get their driver's license photos taken. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, back to tell you why the long faces at the DMV. Next.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
If you're applying for a driver's license in a growing number of U.S. states, don't even think about smiling. A big grin in your photo is now considered illegal. That's because smiling defeats the software they use to map and measure people's features for facial recognition. Officials say they're preventing identity theft by comparing new license photos with existing ones. But of course, once they've got your scowling mug in their database, they can use it to track you. All police need to ID you in a public place is to snap your picture on the street and compare it against what's on file. How long does that take? The answer, 1 second. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Looking for some truth? You found it. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Seems Seems like yesterday, it was long ago.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Agenda 21 Talk. Don, oh crap, I was doing something, I can't do it. I'm Don. Shannon, as I said, is not going to be able to be here. Maybe it'll be next week. We'll see. I was preparing something for later in the show. All right, let's do some headlines to see where we are in the stream of time. You know, old Trump doesn't look like he's going to be elected to anything, but he brought up some good issues about immigration. Let's see. This is from the Daily Mail, which is a British newspaper, like it or not, but it says after these rapes that Islamic people have done, these refugees that the press says were forced to take, Europe has taken them, and they've raped a bunch of women there, especially New Year's Day, even though they don't. Maybe they do. Maybe the Chinese do a different New Year's, but anyway, a bunch of them. So it says EU rape asks, is Trump right about migrants? Violent scuffles break out across the continent between protesters, pro-immigration groups. Violent scuffles, Daily Mail. Violent scuffles broke out across Europe today. This was, I don't have a dateline, just said 3 days ago, but that was a long time ago. It's about 2 weeks ago. Across Europe today is thousands of people taking part in a far-right, if I have to put that in, anti-Islam protests clashed with pro-immigration groups and riot control police. You want to help people, that's true. But is helping people, having them come into your country with a totally different religion whose religion says they need to kill you, that it's okay to rape your women? And it does say that. The Quran does say that. I read it. Police in Dresden, Germany saw about 2,000 protesters at a rally organized by a group, Patriotic Europeans Against the Islamization of the West. What a name. Making it the biggest of a coordinated series of demonstrations across European cities. Anyway, they're wondering, maybe Trump's right. Maybe we should halt immigration for a while until we get this sorted out. Jimmy Carter did it. Nobody complained about it then. But everybody's saying, oh, Trump, you gotta allow immigrants. But anyway, that's what's going on over there. And I saw, I don't have the person's name. It wouldn't matter anyway. Some famous woman journalist is saying that she did a Twitter, and Twitter is so stupid. Why do people do Twitter? It's just a way for you to say something stupid in front of millions of people, and it's on record, and you Twitter before you think. Anyway, she said she didn't think I was really going on. She thought people were making it up. The women were making it up because they just didn't like immigrants being forced on them. Those poor little helpless Syrians that are over there, so they're trying to help them. And some of them do need help. I don't doubt that at all, and we should help them. We should help them by stopping the war over there. Russia's bombing them like crazy. Why don't we stop that? And then they wouldn't need to leave a war zone because there's no more war zone. Why don't we do that? That's a good idea. But anyway, she was saying they're just making it up, and this is a feminist. They're just making up the rape charges. Didn't really happen, and it's just people, anti-immigrant propaganda is basically what she said. And she was blasted for it, and she had to apologize vociferously within hours because it was obvious. And so here's a woman who says, she said the women were asking for it. They're German women in their own country walking by a train station that are accosted. And there's some of it's on film. I saw a little bit of a video from a phone video of these men groping women as they walk by and calling them horrible names because they're Christians, even though they probably weren't. But she said that the women were inviting it. Now, wait a minute. This is a feminist woman who fought for women's liberation, who fights just incredibly a lot against rape. And even the thought in a courtroom that a woman could be maybe dressing provocatively entice a man. And I agree with that. That's wrong. But yet she was saying that about the German women that are raped and accosted by the Syrian refugee men. Isn't that amazing? People's, let's just say this way, people's morals or their sense of right varies with what they want. If they want something, then a certain act is wrong. If they want something else, then a certain act is right. So these women liberation people and other people like that, liberal like that, they don't really have that much of an ideology. It changes they just want a certain thing. They're going after a certain effect. So they'll say anything, even if it goes against what they said before. They'll say anything to get their way. And I just saw that. I'm just venting. There's another one. I've got a whole section now of websites that talk about animal die-offs. And here's one. This is talking about the headline. This is Yahoo thing from October 26th. It's kind of old. Bizarre but true story of starfish committing suicide. They're really not. It says in here that marine biologists are completely stunned by a recent epidemic of starfish committing suicide on the West Coast. The phenomenon dubbed the wasting has been going on for at least 2 years now. How old is Fukushima? As scientists have discovered, the starfish are essentially devouring themselves along the coast from Mexico to Alaska, or Alaska to Mexico. Don't need to read the whole story. Can probably stop right there. You know what I'm about to say. Let's see. Let me think about this. Fukushima is still to this day dumping millions of gallons of radioactive water into the ocean a day. The currents go from a circular pattern clockwise from Japan up north to the Arctic Circle type where Alaska is and the Aleutian Islands, and it goes down the San Francisco coast down and towards Mexico. And they're going to say anything. They say it's some virus, possibly. Well, maybe it is. But the animals are weakened from the radiation in the water. And I would say, isn't that a possibility? Yet they'll say anything, but it's radiation from Fukushima causing it or have even contributing to it in any way. They won't even mention that. Well, I could read article after article, and I've done so on the air in the past year or two about animal die-offs in the West and in the ocean, Pacific Ocean, in that circular current where all that radioactive water is going. Anyway, he will destroy those that destroy the earth. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it's just another animal die-off thing. I'm reading it by itself. I could read 10 stories in a row about animal die-offs in the Pacific. And none of them will have anything to do with Fukushima, even though they weren't dying off several years ago before Fukushima. Now they are. That's just a coincidence. We won't even mention that. It's some virus. It's some red tide. It's something else causing starfish to do things it would never normally do. But anyway, you got to use your brain. Engage your brain. Do a reality check. I know you read the newspapers like I'm reading, and not even newspapers. It's just news on the internet. And you're listening to this controlled media, and they're saying one thing, but you have to think, is this real? Is this a reality check? Are these animals just dying off randomly? Is it just a coincidence? Well, there are no coincidences in politics. Eisenhower said there are no coincidences. And when like that Zika virus, we'll talk about that after the break. Coming up on a break, that Zika virus. I'm going to read a story. If I can find it later today, I'll have it. I have it saved, so I don't know if I'll get to it tonight. But it says they've linked the Zika virus. Not just the Zika virus has been around for a long time. It comes from Africa. However, in South America, it's causing infant problems where if a pregnant woman gets the Zika virus, the baby will have a small head. And there have some pictures of those. So they've linked that with the fact that a couple of years ago they released millions of genetically modified mosquitoes in order to reduce the mosquito population. Yet they had a problem with that. It turns out that Brazil uses a lot of antibiotics, and the antibiotics tend to thwart the kill switch on the mosquitoes. So the mosquitoes lived and they weren't supposed to, and now they're transmitting the Zika virus big time, and they're linked all those together. So you have to kind of think a reality check. Is that true? Well, it's certainly a causation. I mean, we can relate the two things together. The babies born with heads, the Zika virus, and those mosquitoes that were released. So anyway, that's the world we live in. Call-in number coming up on a break, 512-646-1984. This is February the 9th, 2016. To make sure you're at the right date, call us, 512-646-1984.
Easy.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 21 Talk on this February the 9th. Time's passing, man. 2016. 2013 was an interesting year. We got a Jesuit Pope. I think they were all Jesuits, but he's out in the closet. So things are happening. We're going to talk about that on this show in the coming weeks. I don't have anything prepared to talk about that now. Here's a news article from November the 19th, 2015, last year, a few months ago. It says Hillary says Muslims have nothing to do whatsoever with terrorism. I don't know. Let's do a reality check. What religion were the people that supposedly flew the airplanes into the Twin Towers? What religion was the guy in San Bernardino that shot up the people, he and his wife? What religion was the underwear bomber and the shoe bomber and go on and on and on. So I don't know. Is that true? Do people listen to that and believe it? Sure. Do they check it out? A lot of them don't. They just listen to her give a speech and then go home and eat a cheese sandwich and forget everything. Believe it and vote for her. Hillary Clinton sees zero connection between Islamic terrorist networks seeking to create a would-be caliphate and radical jihadism they preach in Islam. I don't know. Should she be elected president if she can't see that connection? Am I the only one that thinks that? I don't know. But I've got the Quran, almost have it in my hand. It's sitting next to me. I can show you where it says they're supposed to kill. I wasn't going to, but I can't resist. Don't even have it. I have it marked, so I bet I can find something here in a second. Let's see. Hold on a second. And he brought down the people of the book who backed them from their strong places and cast the terror into their hearts. A group of them you are killing and a group of them you are taking captive. You want to be people of the book in Islam? Some people say Islam says that Christianity, is people of the book, and they think that's proud. Well, it says you're supposed to kill them. And made you to inherit their land, take their land and their homes and their money and their land which you had never set foot on. So that's just one of them. There's more. There's a bunch more. But anyway, so it tells you to do that. It's in the book. Now, granted, most Islam people don't read the Quran any more than Christians read the Bible. But it's their book. O Prophet, provoke the believers to engage in war. And it believed and immigrated and performed jihad. Immigrate and jihad. So when the forbidden months are past, so kill polytheists, in other words, Christians who believe in the Trinity, wherever you find them, and take them as captives and besiege them and lay wait for them with every kind of ambush. So if they repent and reform the prayer and bring the legal alms, in other words, pay you money, extortion money, so leave their way free. So I'm not knocking Islam just to knock it. I'm not knocking it at all. I'm just reading it. You decide. I know what I think, but you decide. I just read the Quran. So here Hillary says one thing. Is that true? I don't know. I read the Quran. I bet she's read it too. I bet she follows it. There's another one. UK loses track of more than 10,000 asylum seekers. Tracing missing migrants, not a priority, considered a drain on resources, it says. This is from the London Guardian, another newspaper. The Home Office has lost touch with more than 10,000 asylum seekers in Britain, and efforts to trace them are considered a drain on resources. The official immigration watchdog has revealed. I don't know. Do I have to read any more of that? Anyway, it's beyond belief. It's just beyond belief. You don't even know what to say when you read stuff like that. It's just crazy. Oh, I just opened the same one twice. I'm sorry. So when a doctor, it's still opening up. A doctor has been fired from a hospital for talking about the risks of lesbian, gay, LGBT behavior. I think I talked about this once, but he just mentioned that statistics show although it has declined over the past few decades, AIDS, 2/3 of all new HIV/AIDS infections in the U.S. are the result of men having sex with men. 50% of gay, homosexual men will be infected with HIV by the age of 50. Those numbers are out there and they're staggering, this doctor said. He just wrote, that's all he did. He just quoted the truth, what statistics say, what research says. Yet because the research is against the LGBT whatever T, he was fired. The fact that he's a good doctor has nothing to do with it. There's an article there on it was December the 14th. It says from WND that talks about, it's really good. They have these good articles that come out once a week. This is the turning point when states lost power. And it's a long article. I'm not going to read it all, but it talks about when the states give up their rights to the federal government. Anyway, just ought to read that. It's just good stuff. The people of Massachusetts and Connecticut are mostly Presbyterians. In Rhode Island, the tenets of the Baptists, I believe, prevail. In New York, they are divided very much. The most numerous are Episcopalians and Baptists. And he goes on to say, but anyway, when we lost our faith in God, our belief in God, and being directed by God, that's when, things have turned. And we let other people tell us what the Bible says, what God says. Can't do that. We have to listen to what God says, and he has to be in the forefront. We can't have an established state religion. We have one now, and it's religion of Satan, but we're not supposed to have an established state religion. But other than that, you can do anything. And anyways, articles about the woman who has the bakery and refused politely to bake a cake for a homosexual couple and referred them to a florist. Actually, she's a florist. Actually, they're both, but this one's a florist, was just in the news today. And so she had referred them to another florist who would, yet that's not good enough for them. They want to force her to do something against her religion. And it just has all kind of legal troubles, and the state wants to put her in jail and all that stuff. ISIS hacks church to post beheading videos. This is December the 7th, 2015. Threatens war against Christians until Rome conquered. A Catholic church's website in Sydney, Australia was hacked by the Islamic State group and littered with beheading videos. Our Lady of Mercy Sirac Catholic Church was the target of an ISIS attack December the 3rd with a message for its members of prolonged war until Rome is dominated by Islam. Islam is the third woe in Revelation. The first two were Islam, and we're in the third woe. Kind of interesting to think about. We're watching Bible prophecy being fulfilled right before our eyes. It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Don't be afraid. It was prophesied. It's going to happen. But Rome will come up when they say, peace, peace. Then the end will come. So there's going to be a calamity. It's going to be a huge conflict between Protestantism and Islam, and the Pope is going to be the mediator of a peace, and he will have a peace. Peace. And next year, October 31st, 2017, will be the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation, when Martin Luther nailed his 99 Theses on the wall, on the door of the church, and all of those 99 are still there today. Nothing's been settled, but they say it is. Kids seized over families' Christian indoctrination. These are homeschoolers in another country. I think it's another country. Is this what it is? Yeah. Social media campaign is surging around the globe. Tens of thousands have already signed a petition in defense of a family whose 5 children were seized by Norwegian government because of Christian indoctrination. The case was profiled just hours ago by the Christian Institute in the United Kingdom. Norway's Child Welfare Services seized Marius and Ruth's 2 daughters, and the name I can't pronounce, 2 sons, and subsequently their baby Ezekiel. Social service agents and police took the family's 2 oldest children. Then the agents and officers went to the family's home, where apparently without any documentation, they seized their 2 sons and arrested Ruth, all for she was teaching Christianity to their children. Finally, a lawyer paid by the parents assessed some of the case documents and discovered the parents were accused of being radical Christians who were indoctrinating their children. I'm trying to find something really bad that they said, but apparently Norway's not released anything. So apparently teaching your children to be a Christian is radicalizing them. It's really sad. That's the world we live in. A sinful world. Daniel made a prayer, and it's just as valid today. I can't say I'm pure and all of y'all are sinful. We're all sinful. We live in a sinful world, and I'm part of it. Coming up on a break. There's another one. This is off of The Opinion, foxnews.com. Obama, good grief, Obama thinks Christmas is about loving tiny trees. Obama had a tiny Christmas tree, and that's what talking about Christmas for these people. Oops. I have to cut that off. I got something playing in my ear. I opened a website that had a video that Fox News was playing an unsolicited thing for me. Anyway, coming up on the hour break, we'll be at the second hour of the show. And call-in number for this February the 9th is 512-646-1984. Welcome back. This is Agenda 21 Talk on this February the 9th, 2016. Keep saying it because if you just tune tuned in or whatever, you might have missed it. Just want you to know to call in 512-646-1984. Want you to know we're live tonight. It's February the 9th. And so we'd love to hear from you. And I know sometimes when we're running archive, can't be on, you may not tune in the next week because you don't know if we'll be on or not. I don't know. But if you're here tonight, call in 512-646-1984. Here's some more. This is radiation from Japan nuclear disaster spreads off U.S. shores. Now, I'm not saying that. This is a Yahoo News report quoted Reuters from Portland, Oregon. This, I just read about starfish doing some bizarre things because they're something's causing them to act very strangely. And have nerve gas in World War II? Well, some of the mustard gas and stuff would make you convulse to the point you'd vomit blood, and there are some chemicals that will make you convulse and your muscles go into spasmic activity such that they will break bones and do things like that. That's what's happening to the starfish. Is it a virus or is it radiation or is it related to radiation? Well, I don't know. They never mentioned that in the article, but here's another article. This is from December the 3rd, about the same time as that first one. It says radiation from Japan's 2011 nuclear disaster has spread off North America's shores, and contamination is increasing at previously identified sites, although levels are still too low to threaten human or ocean life, scientists said Thursday. Well, there's two things about that. Let's just say one thing about that I've learned about radiation. If the radiation is external to your body, you can tolerate it much more. Certain kinds of radiation, there's different kinds of radiation. If one kind like this coming out of Fukushima, if it's external to your body, you can withstand higher doses of it before it causes problems. But if you get it inside your body, all of a sudden the doses or amount that causes harm is way, way down. So when they say levels are too low to threaten human or ocean life, you have to think in your mind, I bet he's talking about externally. But if you eat the fish or drink the water or have it absorbed through your skin, all of a sudden that low level is enough to kill you. It may take a year or two. It may not even take 20 years anymore. It will cause harm if it gets inside you. That's what they're saying, but they're not telling you that. But that's really what they mean. Okay. Tests of hundreds of samples of Pacific Ocean water confirm that Japan's Fukushima nuclear power plant continues to leak radioactive isotopes more than 4 years after its meltdown. So you're asking, how can they not think that all these animal die-offs in the Pacific are caused by Fukushima? Trace amounts, it says, of cesium-134 have been detected within several hundred miles of the Oregon, Washington, California coast in recent months. How much cesium-134 do you need ingested in you to kill you? Another isotope, cesium-137, a radioactive legacy of nuclear weapons tests conducted from the 50s to the 70s, was found at low levels in nearly every seawater sample tested by Woods Hole, a nonprofit research institution. Everybody knows Woods Hole. They found the Titanic. Despite this is a quote from somebody, probably had his name earlier and I skipped it. Despite the fact that the levels of contamination off our shores remain well below government-established safety limits for human health or marine life, the changing values underscore the need to more closely monitor contamination levels across the Pacific. What good is monitoring? Why don't you stop it? Why don't you try to do something to stop it? I know it's good to monitor, but why don't you, wouldn't the thing be, let's try to stop this stuff? Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. I don't know. It's not a right-wing Tin Hat Brigade news report. That's from Reuters, a well-established news reporting journalistic agency. Pope says fundamentalism is the disease of all religions. Again, this is off of Yahoo back when they had news. This is an AFP report, which AFP is a French news agency, but it's also a good one. Aboard the papal plane, Pope Francis said fundamentalism is the disease of all religions. Now, they might call me fundamentalism because I believe the Bible and the Bible alone. I don't believe you should listen to another human being like the Pope. For me, you can do whatever you want, but for me, that doesn't make sense. The Bible talks about a beast that has certain characteristics. A beast is a government, it says, a kingdom that has certain characteristics. And we'll read about that in a little bit. If I'll do that tonight, we'll read it on our show. I've read it before. I'm going to read it again over and over again. Fundamentalism is always a tragedy. Always a tragedy. He says it's not religious. It lacks God. It's idolatrous. Well, if you're talking about Islam fundamentalism, that's something maybe different. But he's talking really, really and truly, he's getting at Christian fundamentalists who believe the Bible and don't think you need a pope. and particularly ones that read the Bible and worship on the seventh day, because the Catholic Church is the one that set aside the Sunday, and that's a historical fact. It's much more stuff, not really as we have. We Catholics, he said, we have a few, even many fundamentalists. They believe they know absolute truth and corrupt others. I can say this because this is my church. So fundamentalists, if you believe the fundamental principles of your religion, you're corrupting others. Wow. Can you believe that? So if he's against fundamentalism, what is he for? Just making it up as you go along? He's not for the Bible and the Bible alone, that's for sure. Anyway, we'll talk about that as the weeks go on. This is from Muck Rock News. This is www.muckrock.com. Projects, forward with /project /blank check. How local police fund themselves. I want you to look this up. Blank check, how local police fund themselves with fines and fees. I'm going to read all of it. Excellent long article. I'll just read a little bit of the start off with. For almost every city around America, fines and fees. Let me check the time here, make sure I'm not going to run out of time. I've got plenty. For almost every city around America, fines and fees are a useful law enforcement tool offering a way to punish everyday infractions without the immediate threat of jail or permanent mark on a criminal record. In other words, you violated something, pay me money. Well, what happens when government stops thinking of fines as a deterrent, but as a crucial source of funding? How does it change policing when the goal is neither to serve nor protect, should be more, but to ensure that the budget doesn't take a hit? The Sunlight Foundation and Muck Rock are prepared to find out. So anyway, read that article. Good article. Excellent article. Trying to get to something important. High fines coupled with legally inadequate ability to pay determinations and insufficient alternatives to immediate payment impose a significant burden on people living in or near poverty. It is common for a traffic stop or other encounters with FPD to give rise to fines in amounts that a person living in poverty is unable to immediately pay. This fact is attributable in part to the FPD's practice of issuing multiple citations, frequently 3 or more, and on a single stop. This fact is also attributable to the fine assessment practices of the Ferguson Municipal Court. This is the Department of Justice's Ferguson report, where Ferguson was actually quadrupled their yearly intake of money by writing tens of thousands of tickets every year, including not only the high fine amounts imposed, but also the inadequate process available for those who cannot afford to pay a fine. Don't have to pay a fine at all. It really doesn't apply to you. We talked about that before. In Ferguson, the police were checking the people down big time for money. In just a 6 or 7 year period, they quadrupled their yearly intake of money, and they got to the point they hired more officers so they could get more money, so they could hire more officers so they could get more money, and they were raking in money left and right and oppressing the people just horribly. But I want you guys to look that up. Muckrock.com. Look up blank check, how local police fund themselves with fines and fees. It's just incredible and amazing. Here's another one about the end times we're living in. This is cleveland.cbslocal.com. This was from November 23rd, but it says, "We are coming," a pro-ISIS message found on an Ohio college campus. They have a little video there. Pro-ISIS message has been found printed in Arabic, and in English it says, "We are coming." And I have a picture of it there, Ohio campus. It's written in Islam and English. The words destruction. France deserves destruction, it says. They painted the rock red and then put white letters on it. And YSU supports ISIS University. So anyway, stuff like that's coming. It's amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. I can't say enough about the times we live in. I don't say anything about against Islamists. We love all people, even people who are of the Muslim faith or made in God's image. So we have to love them and care for them, pray for them, and try to tell them about Jesus, about Christianity. They have their own interpretation. If they've read the Quran at all, I think they know that Jesus didn't really die on the cross. He didn't die for your sins. They used a stunt double. But anyway, so we pray for them and love them. But, we're really close to Jesus coming back. Black Lives Matter critic harassed for saying all lives matter. And this was from November the 19th. If you remember, one of the presidential candidates, I think, it was a candidate somewhere else said that. A Georgia Southern University student became public enemy number one with Black Lives Matter for daring to say all lives matter. Apparently, that's bad. Senior Emily Foss found herself in the crosshairs of race activists after criticizing the tactics of the students at the University of Missouri and Black Lives Matter in general. She allegedly lost her job after activists bombarded her employer with phone calls. Anyway, Black Lives Matter is a organization that seems to be spreading racism. If you ask me, I don't see how you could say anything different. In the I didn't mean to do that. In their rush to alert the public to the fact that cops are killing blacks at a higher rate than anything else, any whites or any other nationality, which is probably true and a bad thing. We want to fix that. But they've ended up causing more racial tension by their militant methods. This is Agenda 21 Talk. Call-in number on this February the 9th, 2016 is 512-646-1984. Coming up on a break. So love to hear from you. Any comments or questions or directions you want to take the show, 512-646-1984.
Now.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 21 Talk. This is our agenda, God's agenda. I hope we want to know about for the 21st century and beyond, all eternity. How about that? So here's a few more. I'll go through some of these. I get more and more. I had to turn up a bunch of, stop saving them because I was getting too many of them. But this is from The Guardian, British newspaper. Saudi court sentences poet to death for renouncing Islam. And that's, of course, in the Quran. It says if you leave Islam, then you need to be killed. But I only reading that because, people are against Christianity right now. It's going to get worse, and it's supposed to. It was predicted. But they talk about Christianity, how horrible it is and bad, and how can Jesus be the only way? Oprah says there's many ways to heaven, but Jesus says he's the only way, so that would be arrogant and if it wasn't true, it'd just be a ridiculous, arrogant statement. But if it is true, we're just stating a fact. So imagine a religion that's so controlling that if you want to leave, you get killed. There are cults. I mean, didn't Jim Jones go down to wherever it was in South America or Central America, and people tried to leave, so he made everybody drink the Kool-Aid? Have there been other little sects, little groups? I guess if it's a small group, it's a cult and a sect. But if it's millions and millions or billions of people, it's a religion. But imagine having a religion that you can't leave. If you realize that there's something wrong here, if you say anything about it, you get killed. I don't understand people's thinking. We'll leave that alone. Here's another one. ClimateDepot.com is a website, www.climatedepot.com. This prominent scientist declared climate claims ahead of UN summit irrational, based on nonsense, and leading us down a false path. So there are some scientists that are not the Hat Brigade, the actual PhDs. This guy's an MIT climate scientist, Dr. Richard Lindzen. I just read in the news yesterday that a climatologist at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, where NASA is, done some work for NASA, claims that, wait a minute, NASA just said last year was the hottest on record. He says, wait a minute, 2/3 of all those reporting stations are heat sources, exhaust from air conditioners or other places. Which is kind of funny. So he says, you got to, they need to either that or move them by artificial heat sources, which is kind of funny because I've read on the show, and I've saved it and we'll read it again, where climatologists claim that they were caught, so they had to do something, but they've changed the raw data. They haven't just manipulated it with mathematics. They've changed the raw data, and they admit doing it because I've read their reasonings in their blogs for where they say, this is why we've changed the data. And one of the reasons was the temperature measuring device, either a mercury thermometer or digital, starting in the 70s, were located out in the sun. They were not where true ambient would be. So they modified them. And guess what? They modified it all up so that the overall, and I've seen some mathematics that said, well, they really didn't. sort of modified them down. But anyway, the overall result is probably they didn't modify them down, so the more recent ones look. But anyway, the point is they did change it for the very reason this guy says, and he's a university professor, University of Alabama, Huntsville, says, wait a minute, all these NASA, 2/3 of the NASA, I think it's 2/3 of the reporting stations that they're used are near external heat sources, so they're getting artificially high. So I thought that was interesting. So anyway, you can look at that. Climate Depot is a website, climatedepot.com. I encourage people to go there. Here's another one. These are not in any particular order, but I just read one about the starfish dying off. Pacific Coast bird die-off mystifies biologists. Now, we just read a Reuters report where the scientists said radiation in the Pacific Ocean is increasing, but we don't know why these birds are dying. This is January the 6th, 2015. It was actually kind of old. It's over a year old now. But this is off the coastline of Northern California, northern Cousins auklet carcasses by the thousands have been washing up in recent months, presenting a mystery for scientists as to what's killing them. Well, I don't know. You think it's radiation from the radiation plant that's been dumping into the ocean? Well, couldn't possibly be. We don't know why these birds are dying off. It's because they're getting in radioactive water. They just die. We don't know why. It's just a coincidence. Gosh. Why they're dying is a great unknown, this report says. According to the Times, this Los Angeles Times, the birds have been found dead of starvation, ruling out oil spills or adverse food reactions. Possible reasons thus far for their starvation include food sources, usually small fish and shrimp, that have been stretched thin thanks to successful breeding season last year in British Columbia and slightly warmer Pacific Ocean temperatures. Do you really think the ocean warming killed these birds, or a nuclear power plant that's dumping a gazillion gallons every day of radioactive waste into the Pacific Ocean is killing them? I don't know. I'm not a biologist. It's beyond me. But don't you think there's a causation there, a correlation? I don't know. Oops, I think I did the wrong thing. I did. Let me go back up, do the right thing so I can read this next. Next one, here we go. Sorry about that. Here's one of the Pope's case for virtuous capitalism. Now, this is a Wall Street Journal article quoted. It's MSN.com. It was a commercial for the Wall Street Journal. So this whole article, I'm not going to read the whole thing, is talking about the Pope wants virtuous capitalism. Now, the Pope, I'm quoting the Pope is starting to take control of the world, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not. I have a guy, an atheist, who tells me, no, it can't possibly. He knows people in Ireland who are Protestant, they're going to stay Protestant. So you're wrong. The Pope isn't taking over because he knows people that would never become Catholic. Well, they're worshiping on the day the Pope set apart to worship on rather than what the Bible says. But anyway, doesn't mean everybody is going to bow down and worship the Pope. They're just going to follow him. So a lot of them will believe, a lot of them will bow down, a lot of them will kiss his ring, a lot of them will do it. But he's spoken before legislatures in Germany and Europe and now America. He's told them what he wants. He wants moral laws, and he wants a one world economy, a one world bank. And guess what? He's got a bank. And this article for virtuous capitalism is just another way that they're pushing for the papacy to be the spokesman for capitalism and will tell us how we're going to make capitalism fit in with Catholicism. If you want to know what's in store for us, look at the Dark Ages. When Catholicism was in control of Europe, how much manufacturing and productivity and farming did they do in Europe in the Dark Ages? Were people living in nice homes or not? Just look at the Dark Ages. That's where we're going. It's one of the end time things. That's why I hit on it. You know what? The next sections of the show, got 30 more minutes. I'm going to read about what the Bible says about this beast that issues the mark. I think I'm starting to lose my voice. And what it says, and that's why I keep talking about the Pope. So I think I'm going to do that. And we're coming up on a break in a little bit. So I have another one I was going to read. Something I wrote, but we'll do that another time about are the Jews, the Jewish people, wonderful people, don't mean to slight them in any way, but is Israel going to be a big deal before Jesus returns? And we'll read what the Bible says. But I think I'll read this other thing about the beast first, because I've got several stories about the Pope. And you're probably wondering why I keep talking about that. So I've got this document. I'll send it to you if you want. Bible prophecy of beast issuing the mark. So I'm just going to read some stuff out of the Bible, mostly out of Daniel, some of Revelation, and we'll do that on the next segment of the show. I think that's what I'm supposed to do, so we'll do that. Coming up on a break, this is Agenda 21 Talk on this February the 9th, 2016. We are live if it's February the 9th. If it's February the 10th, we're not live. Hopefully I'm alive, but just not on the air. 512-646-1984.
But it's as big as a promise of a coming day.
Coke and Pepsi aren't the healthiest of drinks, but they recently got a tiny bit better by changing a common ingredient consumer watchdogs say might cause cancer. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll tell you what that controversial chemical is next.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
For decades, Coke and Pepsi have insisted their soft drinks are completely safe. Well, they haven't changed their story, but they are changing the caramel coloring that gives colas that rich brown hue because it may cause cancer. It's called 4-methylamidazole, and authorities in California say it's a carcinogen after high doses cause tumors in animals. Turns out that caramel coloring is made with ammonia and other chemicals. The companies say you'd have to drink 3,000 cans a day to match the study's doses, but they're changing their colorings anyway, nationwide. Now, if they just deal with all that genetically modified corn syrup. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 21 Talk. Call-in number 512-646-1984. Okay, you want to talk about the papacy? Love Catholics. They're just like Muslims, just like anybody, Protestants, like, I don't know, any nationality, any religion, any race. They're made in the image of God. They're our brothers and sisters, and we are to love them. So I'm not saying anything about Catholicism itself, but I'm going to read the Bible and you decide. Okay, in Daniel chapter 2, he tells this dream of Nebuchadnezzar, had this dream. Won't go into exactly what the dream is, but it had a head of gold, a chest and arms of silver, thighs of brass, legs of iron, and the feet were made of iron and clay, miry clay. And won't go into anyway, but that whole thing is repeated. The order of the nations, those are nations, because he tells them, Daniel says that you're the head of gold, Nebuchadnezzar, O king, you're the head of gold. And then a lesser nation will take over after you pass away. And that's Medo-Persia and it tells you that later. And it tells you the same order of these he-goats and rams and these different beasts, the bear that sits on its side. And it repeats that same order of nations are repeated, that's in the statue or repeated in animals. And it tells you what they are. You don't have to guess. It tells you what they are. So the chest is Medo-Persia, and I'm talking more than I was going to, but the thighs are Greece and the legs are Rome, and the feet of Rome of iron mixed with clay is what Rome devolves into, which turns out to be the Roman Catholic Church. But anyway, that's historical. So anyway, I'm going to try and read as much as I can and not comment so much. Okay, this beast that issues the mark, which some people call the Antichrist, from the book of John, comes out of the feet of iron mixed with clay. We know that. The fourth kingdom or nation. In Nebuchadnezzar's dream, we know this because that lines up with Daniel's vision of the four beasts starting in Daniel 7:3 as defined in Daniel 7:17. It comes out of the fourth beast, as I said, Daniel 7:3, described in 7:7. I'm reiterating it. Described as a kingdom and a verse which matches iron mixed with clay. So it's a kingdom, it's a nation. Daniel identifies as a little horn, chapter 7, verse 8, and chapter 8, verse 9, which matches Revelation 12:3, 7 heads and 10 horns, out of which a little horn arose. So this kingdom that arises comes out of is the little horn. Came up out of 10 horns. Kingdoms are nations, but destroyed or plucked, it says, 3 of the original 10 nations, leaving 7. That's Daniel 7 and 8, verses 24 and 25 also. So it arises after the pagan Roman Empire. It comes out of 10 nations, and Rome devolved into 10 nations after it split up, and the papacy destroyed 3 of those original 10. And I should know what they are, but anyway, that's a very, very specific prophecy. It tells you when it comes out, comes out of the feet of iron and clay after Rome devolved. Now, and of course, the New Testament was written inside the legs of iron, but they prophesied about what was going to happen in the feet mixed with clay. So anyway, that's extremely specific. It tells you that the legs of iron, which is Rome, and at the time Daniel gave, I'm talking more, I should stop. At the time Daniel gave it, there was no Rome. Rome was just a bunch of nation states. It wasn't anything. So he didn't have a name yet. Wasn't even called Rome. So it came out of the legs of iron, would be broken into 10 nations, and the little horn would destroy 3 before taking over the other 10. That's very specific. It has the eyes of a man. Not that it is a particular specific man. It is the head of a kingdom, like an office of president. It is the office or the leader of a religious nation state. That's why it says eyes of a man. Speaks great things, and Strong's word is huge in size, domineering in character. Makes war or persecutes the saints or people who follow God. A very short list of possibilities of government kingdom rulers that fit this. And it will do that for 1,260 years. Very specific prophecy in Daniel. Will speak great words against the Most High. Daniel 7, verse 25. It will wear out the saints. It will think to change times and laws of the Most High. He can't actually change God's law, only pass his own laws that claim they are of the Most High. So do we have, I'll keep going, sorry. Given power for a time and times and a dividing of time. These are day years, so 1,260 years, a day for a year in prophecy. You can find that in Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:6 and at least 1 or 2 other places and by type. Daniel's vision of chapter 8 is the same beast kingdoms of chapter 7, but with new information. Like chapter 8-9, the little horn pushes against the south, east, and towards the pleasant. Land is added, but it's towards the Jerusalem. Magnified himself even to the prince of the host. He claims to have the position of Jesus on earth, or claims to be equal with Jesus on earth. This also means this little horn is a religion as well as a kingdom. And keep going. I hit the button and it changed. I was scrolling in anyway. And by him the daily was taken away. The word sacrifice is added and shouldn't be there. It's in italics. So by him the daily was taken away. What's the daily? In Hebrews, it's Strong's to be high actively or to rise or raise in various applications, literally and figuratively. Daily actually refers to the continual or daily abomination of idol worship or sun worship every morning. This feast continues sun worship. And you can get into what the daily means. I'm not going to do it here. But we can get into that. But that's what it means. You can search it in the Bible for the abomination. You'll see what they were doing. This kingdom or philosophy brings in great numbers of people. Daniel 8:12. Daniel 8:23, understanding dark sentences shall stand up. The word for dark means puzzle, here to trick or conundrum, a Sentius maxim. Notice the Latin used in the definition, Sentius maxim. He uses word art to hide his true meaning. And the Strong's 24:20 is what shall be dark. Daniel 8:24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Revelation says he gets his power from the dragon or Satan. And he shall destroy wonderfully and shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. All this while claiming to be a worldwide religious leader. Daniel 8:25, and through his policy he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, like witchcraft. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. The Bible says, peace, peace, and then the end will come. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes. Who is that? Jesus. But he shall be broken without hand. Remember, the statue of Daniel gets a stone, hits the feet of iron mixed with clay, and the whole statue bursts into chaff, just dust. So it's a stone cut without hands. So it's broken without hand. Craft is Strong's 8:20, mirma, in the sense of deceiving, fraud, craft, deceitfully, false, fragile, or feigned, guile, subtly, treachery, or subtly, we say. This world religious leader will be very egotistical. He shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace shall destroy many. I'm breaking that verse down. Repeated in Daniel chapter 11, he will eventually use deceit and peace to draw many away from the true God. Remember, peace, when they say peace, peace, then the end will come. But there has to be wars and rumors of wars before they can say peace, peace. Stand up against the prince of princes. By deceit, he is actually, in Strong's various relations, literal or figuratively transitive, as Jesus. Daniel chapter 11 is a history of the 4 beasts described earlier, but all in future. So there are no names yet for the kings 11:16, Daniel 11:16, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall he be consumed. Strong stand means in relation to, and glorious in the sense of prominence or splendor. So he has a lot of money, a lot of pompous. He dresses pompously, splendidly, gloriously. I'll skip that. Daniel 11:20, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. He will be a raiser of taxes to pay for his splendor. He will have constantly raised money to pay for his phony setup. Now, Daniel 8, coming up on a break, but that also, didn't they have to raise taxes when Jesus was born? All right. Last segment of the show, call-in number 512-646-1984. Want to hear from you, but I'll continue reading this document. It's available. Our email is agenda21talk@yahoo.com.
Easy.
Seems like yesterday, it was long ago. Jenny was so lovely, she was queen of my nights. There in the dark.
Welcome back. This is Agenda 21 Talk on this February the 9th, 2016. Call-in number 512-646-1984. Last segment of the show, so if you're going to call in, either do it now or you have to wait till next week. And this document I'm reading, I wrote myself. It's just a collection of stuff from the Bible. It's kind of rough, but if you want it, I've got this and other stuff too. I can send you free of charge. Our email is agenda21talk@yahoo.com. Be glad to send it to you. This is the title. I titled it Bible Prophecy of Beast Issuing Mark. So, just keep reading. Now, add this all together. If you add this all up, take the time to study. I know I'm doing it verbally. You probably forgot what I read earlier, in the last segment. But if you put all this stuff together, it's very, very specific. You can't possibly go wrong. It repeats, verse 36 of chapter 11 of Daniel, and the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and he shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and he shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. We're almost there. We're in that time. For that is determined shall be done. Now you're thinking, now what am I talking about the papacy? What is he speaking against God? If you read, I've been looking at a Catholic website, looking at some of their catechism and stuff. If you read what it says, for one thing, it says only the Pope and his priests can forgive sins. Not God anymore. Now they can. If you're in any other religion besides Catholicism, your sins aren't forgiven. That's what they say. They say that the Pope can alter the Bible, basically the Word of God, whatever the Pope says is above the Bible. They say that, for instance, they say Jesus now is angry, a mean, angry person, and he has to have Mary to placate his anger. So you have to pray to Mary to ask Jesus to forgive you and to be nice to you. Otherwise, the wrath of Jesus will consume you. And anyway, they say that. So they've painted Jesus instead of a loving, forgiving, non-judgmental, wanting to pull you to him, to being this wrathful, vengeful, got to have his mother placate his anger. So anyway, those are some of the marvelous things they teach. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, in verse 37 of chapter 11 of Daniel. He will not follow the old paths, but create new doctrines all his own. Have we done that? Are religions doing that now? They got the Bible. It tells you what God wants, but we go off and do other things, spiritual formation and centered prayer and stuff. Also, it says, now this can't be any more specific. Verse 37 of chapter 11 of Daniel, nor the desire of women. So ask yourself, what worldwide religious leader, holder of office that came from Rome, the fourth beast, that has his own nation state, that's the iron mixed with clay, that has existed for over 1,260 years, is celibate, unmarried, and probably homosexual. Anyway, so ask yourself, who is that? Who could that possibly be? Name a religion that's that way. A religion, nation, state, not just any religion. I mean, the Baptists are great. Let's say I'm just picking on them. Lutherans, whatever. They don't have their own nation. They're not a nation state. And they didn't come from Rome. So you put all the pieces together. Chapter 11, verse 43, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver and have his own bank. The papacy has their own bank. Control finances of most of the world. That is happening as I'm speaking. It won't happen overnight. It's been happening for several years. I've been talking about this too. But in the future, there will be a one world bank, the Rothschilds and the Warburgs and the Rockefellers that control the Federal Reserve and the other families I didn't mention because I don't remember their names. They all bow down and kiss the Pope's ring. They do. Don't ask me why, but they do. I have my thoughts. 2 Thessalonians 2:3, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there become a falling away first. And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, so that he will be revealed, so that those with ears may hear and those with eyes may see. It's no secret if we will only open our minds to the Word of God that tells you this. Paul knew he was living in the time of Rome, and he knew that Daniel's prophecy that Rome would be mixed with miry clay. And I'm leaving stuff out, but it's even more specific than that. Paul knew it, and he knew that that son of perdition, the Antichrist, the guy that's going to issue the mark, he knew that he's coming soon in his lifetime. I mean, it wasn't in his lifetime, but he knew that within some period after his life, maybe in his lifetime, that would happen. And it happened a few hundred years later. Revelation 12:14 repeats Daniel's 1,260-time prophecy of persecution. 12:14 of Revelation, and the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. Now, is he talking about the church being expelled or moving from Jerusalem, which was destroyed in 70 A.D.? Again, I'm probably talking more than I should, but the Roman government surrounded Jerusalem and then left. 3.5 years later, they came back and destroyed Jerusalem. After they left, all the Christians left Jerusalem. They went to Pella, and then they went out to Europe and into the world, where the serpent tried to get them with Catholicism and with Mohammedanism and other places trying to get them, but it hid for a while. And then Protestantism became okay for a while, and now it's about to go away again. In Revelation 12:17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed and to keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Keep the commandments. Well, I thought the commandments were abolished. 10 commandments were abolished, but this says that the woman keeps the commandments. The woman's a church, by the way, in various places in the Bible. Revelation 19:10, and I fell to his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of the brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Does your religion have a spirit of prophecy? Worship of the beast that issues the mark and the dragon is mentioned 5 times in Revelation chapter 13. Thus, the Bible is telling us that worship is very important in the end times. Strong's definition of worship is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, proskuneo, 43:14. Meaning to kiss, like a dog licking the master's hand, to fawn or crouch, i.e. literally or figuratively prostrate oneself in homage, to reverence or adore. This definition does not mean we worship the office holder in the church. It means we kiss some part of him and hold him in great honor and adoration and crouch down when he issues an order. Who do we do that to? Revelation 13:3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. This is symbolism only. All of Revelation is really a symbolism. Not a real beast, not a real wound, but a worldwide religious nation state that suffered a severe setback. And if you don't know your history, Napoleon, who was a Mason, 33rd degree Mason, he sent an army down, and they went to Rome, and they took over Rome, and they arrested the Pope, and they ripped the ring off his finger. That Pope happened to not be Jesuit. He happened to have been Dominican. At the time, there were 3 sects in Catholicism. Jesuits, Dominicans were the big 2, and Franciscans, and the Franciscans never were a threat. Ever since then, I think all the popes have been Jesuit. But anyway, that was the mortal wound. But it was healed, and in 1933, I think, the newspaper in San Francisco even said, the wound has been healed. Mussolini gives the Pope back his nation state. The wound has been healed, it says. Headlines in the newspaper in America said that. Okay. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. That's symbolic. And that no man might buy or sell save him that hath the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that understands, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. You have to be very careful, but anyway, I won't even get into that. And this is Revelation chapter 17, verse 9, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And we know, it's historical, you can look it up in Wikipedia, I've done that. Rome is known as the city of 7 hills, 7 mountains. So you have to ask yourself, running out of time, I'm going to hear the music in 10 seconds, is there a worldwide religious head of state of a nation, head of state of a nation state that claims to have the office of Jesus on earth, claims to have changed the 10 commandments, does not marry or have relationships with women, ruled for centuries, says one thing in public and another in secret, and the Book of Morals and Dogma Bible, Pike tells you about that, will champion a law to declare the right way to worship, arose out of the Roman Empire, persecuted God's church for centuries, killed those who did not worship the way it said to worship, changed the day of worship from that of Jesus, the disciples, and Paul and the early church leaders, suffered a setback as having its leader taken prisoner, and like Napoleon, and whose capital is a city known as 7 Hills. In other words, that meets all the criteria listed above. Who do you think that is? You tell me. I don't know. Thanks, everybody. Have a good, safe, blessed week. Read your Bible. I'll send that to you if you email me. Everybody have a good, safe, blessed week, and I'll talk to you next week.